Hey everyone, and welcome back. Ready for a deep dive into something really fascinating? We're talking alkaline herbal medicine today, and specifically, we're going deep into a book all about Dr. Sebi's unique approach.
It's not just a typical herb book. This one really delves into Dr. Sebi's whole philosophy, like seeing the body as this, well, electric system.
Yeah, I was really struck by that when I first started reading it. It's like our bodies are meant to be buzzing with life force, right?
Mhm.
So by the end of this deep dive, we want you to really get a feel for those core principles, and you'll even walk away knowing some of the herbs Dr. Sebi considered like essential.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the why behind the what.
Okay, so the book jumps right in with this whole concept of the African genome being highly electric and how our modern lives are messing with that. Have you ever heard of that before?
It's definitely a unique take. The book explains it as like the African genome being the foundation for all humans and that it thrives in an alkaline environment. But over time, as we've moved away from a more traditional plant-based way of eating and more towards, well, processed foods and all that, our bodies have become more acidic. And that's where things start to go a bit off.
So basically, our ancestors had it right along with their connection to the earth and like eating from the land.
It's interesting to think about, isn't it? Like we're all just a product of our environment ultimately.
Totally. But what does being electric actually mean in this context? Like, is it literal electricity flowing through us?
Think of it more like this. Our cells, right, they communicate and function through electrical impulses. It's all about electrolytes.
Oh, right. Like electrolytes.
Yeah, minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, they're all crucial for those signals to fire properly.
Okay, that makes sense.
But when your body is in a more acidic state, it throws those electrolytes out of whack. And that's when those signals get messed up and things start to break down. It's like a battery that's slowly losing its charge.
So it's all about maintaining that charge, that balance through what we eat and how we live. And that's where the herbs come in, right?
Exactly. Herbs can help bring things back into balance.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting because the book talks about the body's incredible innate ability to heal itself.
Right. Like we have this inner doctor just waiting to do its thing.
Exactly. And traditional medicine, going back thousands of years, has always recognized this. They used plants to support the body's own natural defenses to restore harmony, not just mask symptoms.
And, it's funny because even today, so much of modern medicine is still derived from plants, isn't it?
It is. Scientists are constantly discovering that these plant compounds, the things that have been used in traditional medicine for centuries, really do have these incredible healing properties.
It's like we're rediscovering what our ancestors already knew.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about food. The book obviously gets into what Dr. Sebi recommends for an alkaline diet. Any surprises there?
Well, Dr. Sebi was all about plant power. He was convinced that achieving that slightly alkaline blood pH, around 7.4, was key for optimal health. And he often linked an acidic body to a whole slew of health problems, particularly inflammation. He really considered inflammation public enemy number one.
Yeah, inflammation is definitely having a moment, right? Everyone's talking about.
And for good reason, it's like a constant state of stress on your body.
So by eating more alkaline foods, fresh fruits and veggies, those ancient grains you mentioned, we help counteract that acidity and bring things back into balance.
Exactly. And it's not just about what you eat, it's what you drink too. Dr. Sebi was a huge advocate for pure spring water, to flush out those toxins and keep things running smoothly. But here's where things get even more interesting. The strategic use of specific herbs for their medicinal properties.
Right. And the book is very specific about using wildcrafted herbs. What's the
Hmm.
big deal with that?
Think about it. Plants growing wild in their natural habitat, they have this inherent vitality, untouched by pesticides or genetic modifications. Dr. Sebi believed that these wildcrafted herbs were just more potent, more in tune with our bodies.
Yeah, it makes sense. There's a certain energy to something grown naturally, right?
Exactly. And this book, it really opens your eyes to a whole world of herbs and their traditional uses. But it also stresses the importance of understanding the difference between herbs you use in cooking and those with more, let's say, potent medicinal properties.
So like one's a gentle nudge and the other's a powerful elixir. But with so many herbs out there, where do we even begin?
Well, we've got to decode some of Dr. Sebi's favorites, and you're not going to believe this one bladder rack. I know the name.
It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it?
No, not really, but don't let that fool you. This seaweed is packed with iodine, which is crucial for a healthy thyroid.
Okay, so it's good for your thyroid, but what else?
Well, here's where it gets even more interesting. Studies are now exploring its potential anti-cancer properties.
Wow, Seaweed fighting cancer. Okay, that's officially blown my mind. What else is on Dr. Sebi's A-list? What about Hombre Grande? Now that one just sounds intriguing.
It's definitely a powerful herb, traditionally used for everything from soothing digestion to fighting infections.
Hmm.
But it's one of those things where dosage is super important. Men especially need to be careful with it.
Okay, noted. Potent, but proceed with caution. What else did you find interesting?
Let's see, Seppo. It's got this long history of being used for, get this, high cholesterol, which just blows my mind.
Right. It really makes you think about how much knowledge was out there, long before modern medicine came along.
Totally. Like, how did they figure this stuff out? It's amazing.
They were like the original biohackers.
Exactly. Speaking of which, have you heard of sea moss? I feel like it's everywhere these days. Smoothies, face masks, you name it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely having a moment.
But this book, it reminded me that it's not just some trendy new ingredient. It's been used in traditional healing for centuries, especially for soothing irritated tissues. Plus, it's incredibly nutritious, packed with iodine, iron, vitamins.
Wow, so it's like a multivitamin from the sea.
Exactly.
Okay, there's one more I have to ask about because honestly, the name just cracks me up. Guaco. It sounds like something you'd order at a taco truck, not something you'd find in an ancient healing book.
I know, right? But apparently, it's amazing for respiratory issues. Coughs, bronchitis, even asthma. It can help open up the airways and calm that inflammation down.
Interesting. Okay, so now I'm sitting here thinking, we've got all these powerful herbs, but how do we know how much to take and more importantly, how to combine them safely? It can't just be a free-for-all, right?
You're totally right. And the book stresses this over and over again. Dosage is crucial. And ideally, you should work with an experienced practitioner, especially if you're dealing with any serious health conditions. Remember, just because something's doesn't mean it can't be potent, right? It's all about finding that sweet spot, that synergy between your body and these powerful plants.
Right. It's like you wouldn't just chug a bottle of essential oils no matter how good they smell.
Exactly.
So speaking of synergy, the book talks about combining herbs for maximum effect. It's not like just throwing a bunch of stuff in a pot and hoping for the best, is it?
Not at all. Dr. Sebi had this whole system for creating what he called synergistic combinations. The idea is that by combining certain herbs in very precise ways, you can amplify their individual effects. It's like creating this symphony of healing within the body.
I love that analogy. Each herb is like a different instrument playing its part.
Oh.
Okay, I am ready to dive into these combinations, but first we've got to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back with more fascinating insights from the world of alkaline herbal medicine.
It's like, each herb brings its own special something to the table, and when you put them together in just the right way, boom, you create something even more powerful.
I love that. Okay, so give us the inside scoop. What are some of Dr. Sebi's dynamic duos, or should I say dynamic dozens?
Well, he had this one blend he called the Foundation, which is pretty self-explanatory, right?
Sit those basics down.
Yeah. Exactly. And this one was all about cleansing, purifying the blood, supporting the liver, gently encouraging the kidneys to flush out toxins. It was like laying the groundwork for a strong, healthy body. It's burdock root, yellow dock, and sarsaparilla. Simple, but powerful.
Hit the reset button on those key organs. I like it. Okay, what else?
Speaking of hitting the reset button, there's the calcification remover formula. Calcification's a big issue, especially as we age. Basically, it's calcium building up where it shouldn't. Dr. Sebi's formula for this one was hydrangea root, which is known for breaking down those stubborn deposits, and red clover, a real powerhouse for circulation and detoxification.
Okay, that's 2 for 2 on catchy names. But really, it's amazing to think these plants can address such specific issues. Now, blood sugar is a hot topic these days. What did Dr. Sebi have up his sleeve for that?
He had a blend specifically for pancreas and endocrine support, designed to help regulate blood sugar. It included guaco, which we talked about earlier, remember?
Yeah, the one for respiratory issues.
Right. But it's also traditionally used to help manage blood sugar levels. He combined that with hueric, a Mexican herb that's thought to support the pancreas, and nopal, that amazing cactus we talked about, good for blood sugar and cholesterol.
It's like this global team of plants all working together. So cool. Okay, give us another one.
Well, you know how important gut health is these days, right? Dr. Sebi was ahead of the curve on that one. He had a gut and cell cleanser formula, and it was all about, well, cleansing the gut, obviously, but also supporting a healthy microbiome.
Makes sense. So what was in it?
It had Cascara sagrada, which is known for getting things moving, shall we say, along with blessed thistle for digestion and rhubarb root for detoxification.
A gentle nudge for the gut.
Uh-huh.
I like it. Did he have anything for the mind, for stress and all that?
Oh, absolutely. Dr. Sebi was all about the mind-body connection, way before it was trendy. He had a brain and nerve support formula designed to soothe the nervous system and help people relax. It was a blend of Santa Maria, blue vervain, and then the classics, Tila and lavender.
The ultimate botanical chill pill.
Right.
It just goes to show you, these ancient remedies really were about treating the whole person, not just parts. Speaking of which, what about women's health? Any specific blends for that?
He did, the uterine support formula. This one typically included sarsaparilla, sea moss, which can help balance hormones, and bladderwrack.
Okay, interesting. Did the book mention anything beyond just like taking the herbs internally? Were there other ways Dr. Sebi used them?
Yes. Actually, there was a recipe for a vaginal canal wash.
Okay, that's a new one.
Right. It might sound a little out there, but it's actually a traditional practice in many cultures.
Interesting.
This recipe used arnica flowers, red clover, hops, and sage.
Wow, a whole botanical garden down there. Okay, so we've covered women's health. What about men? Any special formulas just for them?
Absolutely. The male support blend. This one was often a mix of Yohimbe, Damiana, Sensitiva, and Chaparral.
That sounds like a lot.
Well, they're all traditionally used to address different aspects of men's health, from libido to prostate health.
Right, it's all connected. So with all this talk about specific formulas, I'm wondering about something. Did Dr. Sebi have any go-to herbs or blends for boosting overall energy and vitality? Something to help you feel like you can conquer the world.
He did. It was called the Cell Energizer, and it was all about revitalizing the body at a cellular level.
I like the sound of that.
It usually included herbs like sapo, hombre grande, nettle, chaparral, and valerian.
Wow, that's a mouthful, both literally and figuratively.
Right. But this blend wasn't just about a quick burst of energy. It was about addressing fatigue at its core.
Okay, so we've barely scratched the surface of Dr. Sebi's herbal combinations. But one thing that stands out to me is that he had specific formulas, but it wasn't like he just gave everyone the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The book made it seem like he tailored things to each person's needs.
Exactly. He was all about personalization.
So it wasn't just one size fits all.
Not at all. He'd adjust the ratios, add specific herbs, all based on the individual and their health concerns.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so we've talked about Dr. Sebi's approach to using herbs, both individually and in these powerful combinations, but it feels like there's this whole other layer to his philosophy, right? Like this bigger picture perspective on the body's ability to heal itself.
Absolutely. It's not just about treating symptoms. It's about getting to the root of what's going on and supporting the body's own innate healing mechanisms.
It's like trusting that your body actually knows what it's doing.
Exactly.
And that's where things get really interesting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a total paradigm shift.
It really is a different way of thinking about health. It's like we're so used to just wanting to get rid of symptoms as quickly as possible. But Dr. Sebi's approach was more about like understanding why those symptoms were showing up in the first place.
Exactly. It's about addressing those root causes, not just slapping a Band-Aid on things. Dr. Sebi truly believed that disease was often the body's way of trying to cleanse and heal itself.
It's like those detox symptoms people experience. Like sometimes you have to feel worse before you feel better.
Right. And he felt that suppressing those symptoms, whether it's through medication or other means, could actually hinder the body's natural healing process.
It's like interrupting your body's own cleaning crew.
Exactly. He was all about working with the body, not against it. And that meant understanding what was throwing it off balance in the first place.
So it's not just about what we're putting into our bodies. It's also about what we're putting onto our bodies. The lotions, the potions, the hair products.
Exactly. All those things can contain chemicals and toxins that disrupt the body's natural balance.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about what Dr. Sebi believed, but the question on everyone's mind is, does it actually work?
It's tricky, right? Because the way we typically measure proof in Western science through clinical trials and all that, it doesn't always translate perfectly to traditional healing modalities.
So it's not that it doesn't work, it's that we haven't necessarily found the perfect way to measure it yet.
Right. But there's definitely a growing movement to bridge that gap, to find ways to study and validate these ancient practices using modern scientific methods.
That's good news,
Yeah.
because there's so much wisdom to be gained from these traditions. So before we wrap things up, is there anything else about Dr. Sebi's philosophy that you think is really important for people to take away from this deep dive?
I think the biggest thing is this. True healing It's not a destination, it's a journey. It's not about quick fixes or magic bullets. It's about making gradual changes to your lifestyle. It's about understanding your own unique needs and finding what works for you. And above all, it's about trusting your body's innate ability to heal.
It's about reclaiming our health.
Right, exactly. And that's empowering.
It really is. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of alkaline herbal medicine. We've explored Dr. Sebi's unique perspective, from the concept of the electric body to the incredible power of plants and the importance of listening to our bodies and addressing the root causes of imbalance.
It's been fascinating to explore all of this with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to keep exploring. Research, learn, and most importantly, listen to your body. It's amazing what we can discover when we start paying attention. That's it for this deep dive, folks. Until next time, stay curious.